Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Happy Gita Jayanti to you all. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Today's reciters are Vrinda Devi Mataji in Sanskrit and Hitesh Prabhu in English from Canto 3, Chapter 22, verses 24 to 39. Vrinda Devi Mataji, when you're ready, please start with the invocation. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, I'm reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 22, verses 24 to 39. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishna Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nivishesha Shinivadi Paschatya Deshtarini. Text 24. Pratam Duhitaram Samrat Sadrikshaya Gata Vyataha Upaguhya Jabahubhyam Otkantyun Matista Shayaha.
Hare Krishna translation. Thus relieved of his responsibility by handing over his daughter to a suitable man, Swayambhuva Manu, his mind agitated by feelings of separation, embraced his affectionate daughter with both his arms.
Text 25. Ashaknuvam shtad viraham munchan bashpa kalamuhu ashinchadamba vatseti netrode duhitu shikha.
The emperor was unable to bear the separation of his daughter. Therefore, tears poured from his eyes again and again, drenching his daughter's head as he cried, "My dear mother, my dear daughter."
Text 26 to 27. Amantriratam munivaram anukyata sahanugaha Vrattachirathamaruhya Sabharya Swapuram Nipaha Ubhayorishikulyaya Sarasvatya Surodhaso Rishinam Upashantanam Pashyanashrama Sampadaha.
After asking and obtaining great sages' permission to leave, the monarch mounted his chariot with his wife and started for his capital, followed by his retinue. Along the way, he saw the prosperity of the tranquil seers, beautiful hermitages on both the charming banks of the Saraswati, the river so agreeable to saintly persons.
628. Tamayantam abhipretya brahmavartat prajapatim Gita samstuti vaditre pratyudiyo praharshitaha.
Overjoyed to know of his arrival, his subjects came forth from Brahmavarta to greet their returning lord with song, prayer, and musical instruments.
Text 29 to 30. Barhishmati nama puri sarva sampat samanvita Nyapatanyatra romani yagya sangam vidhunvataha Kushaha kashashta evasan shashvat dharita varchasaha Rishayo yai parabhavya yagyagnan yagyamichire.
The city of Bahashmati, rich in all kinds of wealth, was so called because Lord Vishnu's hair dropped there from his body when he manifested himself as Lord Bull. As he shook his body, this very hair fell and turned into blades of evergreen kusha grass and kasha, another kind of grass used for mats, by means of which the sages worship Lord Vishnu after defeating the demons who had interfered with the performance of their sacrifices.
Text 31. Kushakashamayam Badhir Astirya Bhagavan Manuha Ajayad Yagya Purusham Labdva Sthanam Yato Bhuvam.
Manu spread a seed of Kusha and Kasha and worshipped the Lord, the personality of Godhead, by whose grace he obtained the rule of the terrestrial globe.
Text 32. Barhishmatim nama vibhor yam nirvishya samavasat tasyam pravishto bhavanam tapatraya vinashanam.
Having entered the city of Bahishmati, in which he had previously lived, Manu entered his palace, which was filled with an atmosphere that eradicated the three miseries of material existence.
Text 33. Sabharya sapraja kaman bubuje nyavirodhataha Sangiyamana satkirti shastribhi suragayake Pratyusheshvanupadhena hridashrinvim hare kathaha.
Emperor Swayambhu Manu enjoyed life with his wife and subjects and fulfilled his desires without being disturbed by unwanted principles contrary to the process of religion. Celestial musicians and their wives sang in chorus about the pure reputation of the emperor, and early in the morning every day he used to listen to the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with a loving heart.
Text 34. Nishnatam yogamaya vayam bhuvam manu yada brahmashaitum bhoga nasheku bhagavat param.
Thus, Swayambhu Manu was a saintly king. Although absorbed in material happiness, he was not dragged to the lowest grade of life, for he always enjoyed his material happiness in Krishna consciousness, in a Krishna conscious.
Text 35. Ayatayamastasya sanyama swantarayapana Shrinvato dhyayato Vishnu Shubhato Shubhata Katha.
Consequently, although his duration of life gradually came to an end, his long life, consisting of a Manvantara era, was not spent in vain, since he ever engaged in hearing, contemplating, writing down, and chanting the pastimes of the Lord.
Text 36. Sa evam swantaram ninye yuganam ekasaptatim vasudeva sangena paribhuta gati sayaha.
He passed his time, which lasted 71 cycles of the 4 ages, 71 times 4,320,000 years, always thinking of Vasudeva and always engaged in matters regarding Vasudeva. Thus he transcended the 3 destinations.
37. Sharira manasa divya vayaseye cha manusaha bhautikascha katham klesha badhante hari samshayam.
Therefore, O Vidura, how can persons completely under the shelter of Lord Krishna in devotional service be put into miseries pertaining to the body, the mind, nature, and other men and living creatures?
Text 38. Ya prishto munibhi praha dharma nana vidan chubhan nrinam varnashramananam cha sarvabhuta hita sada.
In reply to questions asked by certain sages, he, Swayambhu Manu, out of his compassion for all living entities, taught the diverse sacred duties of men in general in the different varnas and asramas.
Text 39. एतत् आदिराजस्य मनुश्चरितमद्भुतं वर्णितं वर्णय्यस्य तत् अपत्योदयं शृणु.
I have spoken to you of the wonderful character of Swayambhu Manu, the original king, whose reputation is worthy of description. Please hear as I speak of the flourishing of his daughter Devahuti. Hare, please forgive Hare Krishna. Please forgive any mistakes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Vrinda Devi and Nitish. Your lovely recitation. Welcome, dear devotees, to tonight's chat session. We continue reading and discussing third canto, chapter number 22, chapter entitled The Marriage of Kardam and Devahuti. And today we will be reading and discussing text number 34 and 35. But before we do so, we'll recite the Mangala Charanam prayers. Please feel free to join in behind muted mics. Om Gyanathmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadhamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yatapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutan Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gourange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Satidevi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachya Deshatarine Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So it's wonderful that we can gather on this most auspicious day of Mokshada Ekadasi, the day that Lord Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, and we can discuss Srimad Bhagavatam. So today we continue with the section of the Bhagavatam which describes the glorious rule of Swayambhuva Manu. So I'll share my screen and then we can read text number 34. Nishnatam yogamayashu munim swayambhuvam manum yadhabra brahm saitum boga nashikur bhagavat param. Synonyms: Nishnatam, absorbed, yoga maya shu, in temporary enjoyment, Munim, who was equal to a saint, Swayambhuvam, Swayambhuva, Manum, Manu, yet from which, Ahabram, Saitam, to cause to deviate, Bogaha, material enjoyments, Na, not, Seku, were able, Bhagavat Param, who was a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Thus, Swayambhuva Manu was a saintly king. Although absorbed in material happiness, he was not dragged to the lowest grade of life, for he always enjoyed his material happiness in a Krishna-conscious atmosphere. Purport. The kingly happiness of material enjoyment generally drags one to the lowest grade of life, namely degradation to animal life, because of unrestricted sense enjoyment. But Swayambhuva Manu was considered as good as a saintly sage because the atmosphere created in his kingdom and home was completely Krishna conscious. The case is similar with the conditioned souls in general. They have come into this material life for sense gratification. But if they are able to create a Krishna conscious atmosphere, as depicted here, or as prescribed in revealed scriptures by temple worship and household deity worship, then in spite of their material enjoyment, they can make advancement to pure Krishna consciousness without a doubt. At the present moment, modern civilization is too much attached to the material way of life or sense gratification. Therefore, the Krishna consciousness movement can give the people in general the best opportunity to utilize the human life in the midst of material enjoyment. Krishna consciousness does not stop them in their propensity for material enjoyment, but simply regulates the habits in the life of sense enjoyment. In spite of their enjoying the material advantages, they can be liberated in this very life by practicing Krishna consciousness by the simple method of chanting the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nishnatam, absorbed. Generally, if one is absorbed in material life, one cannot be absorbed in spiritual life. It is said, material life and spiritual life are like oil and water. They can't mix. But here we have a situation where mysteriously and strangely we have a king being described as absorbed in temporary enjoyment, but at the same time being described as a Muni and as a Bhagavat Param, who was a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is unusual. In the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, we read the pastime of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Maharaj Prataparudra. Maharaj Prataparudra was the king of Orissa. He was a great devotee of Lord Jagannath and of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he was highly desirous of getting the darshan and association of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was approached to give Maharaj Prataparudra his audience, he flatly refused. And he said, a king is a pound and shilling person. It's unbefitting for a sannyasi to associate with a king. So, but Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he had his own pastime, and eventually he did give the audience to Maharaj Prataparudra. But the point I'm trying to make is that this verse, in one sense, is glorifying bhakti. In any other path, the path of karma, the path of jnana, the path of astanga, all of these paths, these different pathways, they call for extreme renunciation, to break all ties with any association with matter or sense enjoyment. But here we see a person being described, a king being described, as being absorbed in material life, but at the same time being a great devotee. And this is possible, only possible, because of bhakti, devotion to the Lord. Bhakti is so powerful that nothing can stand in the way of bhakti. And in the purport, Prabhupada talks about Swayambhuva Manu being a Raja Rishi, a saintly king. And he's actually quite interesting if we study the Bhagavatam. A lot of the Bhagavatam is not about sannyasis. It's not about the lives of renunciates. If you just think about the Bhagavatam, first off, it starts off with Maharaj Parikshit, a king. Then we read about Dhruva Maharaj. And then we read about Ambarish Maharaj. And then we read about King Chitraketu. And then we read about Maharaj Priyavrata. A lot of the pastimes in the Bhagavatam are not glorifying renunciates, but they're glorifying kings. No ordinary king, but saintly kings. And the characteristic of all these saintly kings were they were all great devotees of Lord Krishna. Bhagavat Param. And this is the power of devotional service. In any walk of life, in any situation, one can progress in spiritual life. Not only progress, one can attain the highest position in spiritual life simply by engagement in devotional service. And Prabhupada writes in the second line, Swayambhuva Manu was considered as good as a saintly king because the atmosphere created in his kingdom and home was completely Krishna conscious. And Prabhupada talks about in this Kali Yuga, how modern civilization, if you go and you tell the modern people who are living in the cities, please give up this Rajagun, give up this very hectic life. Go to the forest and practice spiritual life. They would not be able to take it up. They'll find it detestable. But Prabhupada says, anybody in any situation in Kali Yuga, Prabhupada says, not even stop, carry on. Prabhupada says, carry on. Do not stop them in their material propensity, their propensity for material enjoyment, but simply regulate the habits in the life of sense enjoyment. Prabhupada says, in spite of enjoying the material advantages, they can be liberated in this very life by practicing Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada specifically says about chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You know, if ordinary people in Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga read such a statement, they would think it's crazy. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came and he inaugurated the Sankirtan movement. And he gave the sublime process of Krishna consciousness. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu toured South India, he met a Brahmin, and he went and he took prasadam at the Brahmin's house. And when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was leaving, the Brahmin was running behind him, wanting to leave his family and his livelihood. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, don't do this. Even when Raghunath Das Goswami wanted to leave his father's wealth, his father was extremely wealthy, Mahaprabhu told him, don't be like a monkey, referring to monkey renunciants who go to the forest, but yet they keep half a dozen other monkey wives and they enjoy sense gratification. So this is the beauty of Krishna consciousness, why it can appeal to anybody in any place, in any situation. Just stay where you are. You do not have to change your lifestyle. You do not have to change where you live. You do not have to change your ashram. Simply take up the process of Krishna consciousness. And the process of Krishna consciousness is so powerful. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojatiha Jnana Asuvairagyam Janad Ahaitukam. Sorry, I just missed one word there. But that simply by engaging in devotional service, automatically Gyan and Vairagya, detachment and knowledge will be there. We do not have to engage extraneously for it. This is how powerful devotional service. Therefore, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Vyasadeva glorifies the Bhagavatam through role reversals. Kings become greater than brahmanas. The example is Lord Vamanadev's pastime. Who was the king there? My memory is going really, really bad. Lord Vamadev, Bali Maharaj. He became greater than Sukracharya, a Brahmin. Children become greater than parents, Prahlad Maharaj. Animals become greater than humans, Gajendra, Hanuman. Wives become greater than husbands, the wives of the Brahmanas. So we notice in the Bhagavatam, simply to emphasize the greatness and the power of bhakti, Srila Vyasadeva, he reverses the roles. He reverses roles what traditionally was seen differently in the Bhagavatam, simply by dint of people's devotions or personalities' devotions. They triumph all norms. And this is really beautiful. Anyone's got any comments? Any reflections before we move on to the next verse? No? Okay. Text number 35. Ayata yamastas tasyasan yamasvantara yapanaha shrinvato dhyayato vishnu kurvato bruvata kataha. Ayata yamaha, time never lost. Tasya of Manu, Asan way, Yamaha the hours, Swa Antara is duration of life, Yapanaha bringing to an end, Shrinvata hearing, Dhyayataha contemplating, Vishnu of Lord Vishnu, Kurvataha acting, Bruvataha speaking, Kataha the topics. Consequently, translation, consequently, although his duration of life gradually came to an end, his long life consisting of a Manvantara era was not spent in vain, since he ever engaged in hearing, contemplating, writing down, and chanting the pastimes of the Lord. Purport: as freshly prepared food is very tasteful, but if kept for 3 or 4 hours becomes stale and tasteless. So the existence of material enjoyment can endure as long as life is fresh. But at the fag end of life, everything becomes tasteless, and everything appears to be in vain and painful. The life of Empress Swayambhuva Manu, however, was not tasteless. As he grew older, his life remained as fresh as in the beginning because of his continued Krishna consciousness. The life of a man in Krishna consciousness is always fresh. It is said that the sun rises in the morning and sets in the evening, and its business is to reduce the duration of everyone's life. But the sunrise and sunset cannot diminish the life of one who engages in Krishna consciousness. Swayambhuva Manu's life did not become stale after some time, for he engaged himself always in chanting about and meditating upon Lord Vishnu. He was the greatest yogi because he never wasted his time. It is especially mentioned here, Vishnu kurvato bruvataha kataha. When he talked, he talked only of Krishna and Vishnu, the personality of Godhead. When he heard something, it was about Krishna. When he meditated, it was upon Krishna and his activities. It is stated that his life was very long, 71 yugas. One yuga is completed in 4,320,000 years. 71 of such yugas is the duration of the life of a Manu. And 14 such Manus come and go in one day of Brahma. For the entire duration of his life, 4,320,000 times 71 years, Manu engaged in Krishna consciousness by chanting, hearing, talking about, and meditating upon Krishna. Therefore, his life was not wasted, nor that it becomes stale. Amazing verse. So much is packed in here. So, the first point being made is, what was Swayambhuva Manu's activity? He was engaged in hearing, remembering, writing down, and chanting the pastimes of the Lord. It's interesting, these different aspects: hearing, Shravanam, contemplating, that's Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, writing down and chanting, Kirtanam, the pastimes of the Lord. This was his main business. The business of ruling a kingdom, the business of procreating, the business of family affairs. That was all secondary business for Swayambhuva Manu. And normally, anyone who lives a long life becomes old. And old age means, Prabhupada gives a nice example. Food, if you keep it for 3 or 4 hours, it becomes stale and tasteless. In the same way, old age makes life, as Prabhupada says, everything seems in vain. This is the standard trajectory of life of everyone who grows old. But Prabhupada says there's an exception. And Prabhupada quotes this verse from the first canto of the Bhagavatam, Ayur Pumsa. Where in that verse it said, both by the rising and the setting of the sun, it decreases the duration of life for everyone, besides those who dedicate their lives towards hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. Does it mean that a devotee never grows old? The sun, the rising and the setting of the sun doesn't make the devotee old? No. What it means, it has no real effect. The effect of old age or the rising and setting of the sun is one's life becomes tasteless, it becomes painful, it becomes miserable. But a devotee, by dint of Krishna consciousness, is innermost world is joyous. His innermost world is full of activity. And therefore, a devotee of the Lord has been described here, Swayambhuva Manu. Such persons, they look fresh. The life of a Krishna consciousness person is ever fresh, always fresh. It does not become stale. A devotee never feels their life has become stale. It becomes boring. It has become monotonous. Never. Never. old age cannot have that effect on a devotee. Devotee is always joyful, always happy, always excited. And the word in the purport here, the very first word, ayata yamaha, time never lost. Such a devotee never wastes his time. And Prabhupada says Swayambhuva Manu was the greatest yogi because he never wasted his time. Why? Because every moment he had, as Prabhupada explains here, when he talked only of Krishna and Vishnu. When he heard something, it was about Krishna. When he meditated, it was about Krishna and his activities. There's a story of a yogi. So a prince, a brahmachari, a butcher, and a devotee approached the yogi for blessings. So that the prince, the yogi, said, "You should never die. I bless you that you never die." Why? Because the prince is enjoying lots of material opulences. And the moment the prince dies, he's expired all his good karma, he has to suffer. So the yogi blessed him, "You never die." For the brahmachari, he said, "You die immediately." Because the brahmachari was performing so many austerities. And after life, because of the austerities, he will enjoy the impact. So he said, "You die immediately." For the butcher, he said, "You don't die, you don't live." Because while you are living, you are making life so miserable for animals. And when you die, you'll have to pay your karma for killing animals, and you will suffer like anything. And for the devotee, what did he say? You, doesn't matter. Whether you live or you die, it's the same thing. While you're living, you're absorbed in serving Krishna, hearing about Krishna, remembering Krishna, speaking about Krishna. And when you die, when you go to the spiritual world, you'll be doing the same thing. You'll be serving Krishna, you'll be hearing about Krishna, you'll be discussing about Krishna, you'll be remembering about Krishna. So whether you die or whether you live, it doesn't matter. It's the same. So that's a very beautiful and interesting story. And it goes to show the glorious life of a devotee. A devotee does not fear death. A devotee does not dread old age. Yeah, old age, you can come. Doesn't matter. Yeah, the body may get old, but I am the spirit soul. As long as I can hear, I can chant, I can remember, I can serve, it's all right. It doesn't matter. Old age doesn't matter. And here we see this so beautifully described in the life of Swayambhuva Manu. And this is the life we want for ourselves. We should never, a devotee should never be afraid of old age. In fact, the devotee will welcome, because old age comes with its very special that all the duties are finished. You don't have to go to work. You can just absorb yourself in hearing, chanting, discussing, preaching about Krishna. And a devotee looks fresh, does not look morose like all the other elderly people. Even if there is disease, even if there's aches and pains, everything is seen as the grace and mercy of Krishna. In the Bhagavatam, Shukdev Goswami says, "What is the use of a long life? Rather, a short life full of Krishna consciousness." But here, Swayambhuva Manu, living 71 times 4,320,000 years, perfectly happy. And let's we pray for that. Let's we pray that we all know we all going to get old. We all know that the body is going to start troubling us at some point in time. We all know the body is going to break down at some point in time. And we pray to Krishna that we can always remain enthusiastic in our Krishna consciousness. Because as long as we're enthusiastic about hearing, chanting, and remembering, old age will not affect us. Thank you. I'll stop here. I just want to say something before I ask for questions and reflections. You know, today is Gita Jayanti. There's a worldwide effort to distribute 4.6 million copies of Bhagavad Gita by the end of December. So dear devotees, whatever you can do to contribute towards that effort, please do so. I made a commitment to distribute 1,008 Bhagavad Gitas. I don't have a clue how it's going to happen. I'm just going to try. If you know any good souls or good businessmen that I can approach and speak to, please share with me the names. You know, if there's any pious people, good people who are inclined towards the message of the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, I'll be very grateful if you can share that. Or if you yourself want to approach them, please do. Krishna, after speaking the entire Bhagavad Gita, the Lord explains that there will be no one, there is no one more dear to him, nor will there be anyone more dear to him than one who spreads this message of the Bhagavad Gita far and wide. So Krishna's mission in this world is to save the fallen souls. And our mission in this world should be the same as Krishna's mission. Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone, for your patient listening. Any questions, comments, reflections, corrections? Everyone still here, awake?
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Thank you very much for the wonderful class. I really enjoyed it and listening to all the stories that you've shared with us. Really wonderful. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Dilip Prabhu, you like to say something? Or I have a question or a comment? No. Okay.
Times.
Okay. If there's no questions or no comments or no reflections, we shall close today's session. All glories to Srimad Bhagavatam. All glories to Bhagavad Gita. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to you. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha
Kripascha,
kripasindhubhyev
Kripasindhubhya cha
Patitanam
Patitanam
Pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo
Namo
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Anantakoti
Ananta Koti
Vaishnava
Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Srila
Srila
Prabhupada
Prabhupada
ki
ki
jai.
Hare Krishna.
Gita Jayanti ki Jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna, Manisha.
Thank you, Prabhuji,
Hare
for the lovely
Krishna.
class today. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.